Suki, she got good coochie. Better than Karuchi, put her in a movie. At 17, I did the Louis, bitches nothing to me. Ayy, fuck them, we don't know y'all. Ayy, weird niggas fucking up the protocol. Might just see me dozing out, but I ain't sleep at all. I made my bed so I can't trip about hoes creeping off. No pain, write a script so I can sleep it off. Jigga jumping, hella luggage, I can't sleep it off. It could never get too hard when I can see it soft. Pest control, he got zapped, they couldn't trust my dog. If you snake me out of...
Alright, so there was some things I definitely did want to run through. I do want to know, while I dive deep, how did you get into Rage?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Do I go to the beginning? Do I start like with my music career? Like how deep we trying to go?
I mean, okay, let's start with Rage, because I did want to go into that down the line, music in general, but just Rage because this is something that I saw was a chapter or a moment in your life.
So I've always had like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm just gonna be completely vulnerable. I've always had like some type of like anger type of thing going on, like an anger issue. Sometimes I snap quickly. I mean, I get very irritable. I ended up realizing that I had like imbalanced like hormones, which used to make me break out a lot, and I actually just ended up being able, as I got older, to balance it out. If you have raging hormones, you're like a raging female. So a lot of females that have like a hormone imbalance, which is totally normal, they'll break out. It'll show in their body. They don't have a healthy way to release it. It'll show. So it was coming through my skin, and it was just making me hate myself and stuff. So I actually have been struggling with that a little bit since I was probably like 13. And one relationship that I had kind of set me over the edge. It was a very abusive relationship. I was in a domestic violence relationship for about 3 years. And it brought me to probably my lowest, darkest moment. And I had to have a way to get it out because there was no way to get it out. I mean, it was a crazy experience. I've never in my life, well, I will never in my life deal with it again, but I've never in my life had to deal with that. And it kind of shaped who I was, but at the time I was so broken that I felt like I needed a release. So when I first started music, in my room I had a Focusrite and a little Audio-Technica microphone with some headphones, and I started freestyling. And at first I couldn't freestyle words, I only would freestyle melodies. Okay. So I had to start practicing in order to freestyle words. Like I wasn't just able to write, I ended up practicing to write, and so now I can write a song in 10 minutes. But so I started off with trying to sing, and then something was like, nah, this just don't feel right. So I ended up working with some people out in Northside, where they had helped me in the beginning. Dub Life, I don't know if you know or familiar with Dub Life, but I started working.
Get into that. I actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I started working with them, and they helped me, start my career, and I found my path of like Rage, because at first I was like, I don't know which way to go, singing or rap. So my homies were like, why don't you start rapping? See if you could rap this. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So then I started writing my own shit, and I'm like, let me just talk about like what's inside of me, like the pain inside. And that's how it started coming out. I already have a raspy voice. I already have very high energy, and that's how it came out. So that's how I started making Rage. And I like mosh pits. I like to have fun. I'm a partier. I've been partying since I ain't gonna lie to you, like 14. I grew up in the country.
You ever been to Hat Factory out here?
No, I'm not. Okay. I wasn't old enough for Hat Factory.
Okay.
That was my brother's. That's my brother's generation. I'm a little young for Hat Factory.
Yeah, that was how I was introduced to the Rage life, or more of mosh pits, and
okay,
that was
I
big.
wish.
That was big out here at one particular point. So
yeah, I started going to like performing at like places like Poor Boys when that was here.
I've heard of it as well.
Poor Boys was like pretty big with mosh pits, because the Hat Factory shut down by the time I was like legal.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's Chester's birthday?
Oh my God. Chester's birthday is in November. It's like November 11th.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yes.
My birthday's November 10th.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, that's
funny.
funny. So Chester's a Scorpio. Okay.
Yep,
All right. Let me see what I had. All right. So the hair split.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and I want to guess, but I want to know: is it true? Is it due to you being a Gemini and the what goes with the fact of the stigma of different personalities within a Gemini.
Okay.
Is this true or?
This is true, but it's a little deeper than that. So
Okay.
I am a Gemini, and so I do have the half and half. This is like who I was before I started music. I was very soft-spoken. Didn't really have as much confidence as I do now. I was kind of very reserved. Like, I always had it in me. I just was kind of scared to put it out in front of people. I was too humble. I felt like a lot of people around me growing up wanted to humble me, so I felt like I couldn't do certain things because people saw the potential before I saw it in myself. So then once I saw it in myself, then I turned into Jada, and I didn't give a fuck. And I'll say whatever I want, and I do what I want. If you have a problem with it, I don't care. I will block you because this is my life, and this is how I think about the world. This is my world, and everybody else lives in it. And that's just me personally. Like, I respect people, but I feel like everyone should think like that. I feel like you should be very specific, in particular, the energies you allow in your life, because it's your life and you create the world that you live in. So I'm not gonna sit here and water myself down for anybody, because at the end of the day, if I don't see you, out of sight, out of mind, you don't even exist to me anymore. So I have the half and half Gemini. Those are my two personalities, and kind of alter egos. Like, Jada's like, oh my god, do people like me? Like, oh my god, like, am I doing the right thing? Like, that's social anxiety, because I do have social anxiety. But once the Jada turns on, I do not care. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you originally from the Hanover area?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in Hanover. I was born in Henrico.
All right. Which part?
Glen Allen, Henrico. Well, Henrico
Okay.
Doctors. I was born in Henrico Doctors Hospital, and then I lived in Glen Allen, like Lee's Crossing area, like by the VCC.
Very, very familiar with the area.
I lived there for probably 2-3 years, and then I moved to Hanover. My parents moved me out to Hanover, even though they from Hampton. They moved me out to the racist sticks.
Oh my. That's, that was gonna bring me into the next question. So, what is your perspective on Hanover as far as you being a mixed race young lady?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel as far as your community and how has it affected you?
It honestly, I wouldn't say. I've met some good people in Hanover. I cannot say that everybody there is racist, but it is built upon racism, like heavy. Heavy. So growing up interracial, I feel like I had an identity crisis. I was the only mixed kid in my school until about around kind of middle of middle school to high school. And it was kind of weird. Like, I was always the only, either mixed girl or black girl in general in my class in, elementary school and stuff like that. So I was just around a bunch of white people, which I am half white. So it's that's half of who I am, but they don't see me as white. They see me as black. They will never see me as white. And that's why I try to tell people it gives you an identity crisis, because black people see you as white and white people see you as black. And so it's kind of hard to find that medium of, who you're supposed to be and who people tell you to be and what's around you. So I'm surrounded by a bunch of white people. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm straightening my hair all the time. I hated my hair.
Okay.
I had a huge identity crisis with my hair. My mom used to hate it. I used to wake her up early. Please straighten my hair. I'm crying because, the girls in school used to make fun of it because it's so bushy and bushy. It is beautiful. I love it now. But it ended up frying my hair. I had to cut it off and stuff like that. So I had a really hard time finding who I was. It wasn't until high school where I really started finding who I was. And then came that real hate. The real hate. I used to get, little racist things here and there. My parents had to endure it more than me.
Okay.
Because being an interracial couple, especially they got together in the 90s, that was still kind of taboo. So, especially,
wow.
Yeah, it was very taboo back then. So, and people don't realize that. It's just now getting accepted, and people still don't accept it.
Yeah, well, shout out to Mom for breaking barriers in a particular
Facts.
area. That's...
And her family. Her family alone.
Because it does start a lot of times within family that's not discussed or hopped around, and sometimes prejudice is much more than, it's the quicker way than just saying something is racist. It's the ignorance of saying, I don't know why I don't like you, but I don't like you. There's something different about it. And before it's actually really racism, I see a lot of just prejudice.
Exactly.
I feel like prejudice is a little bit more ingrained. Racism is a little bit more taught.
It's exactly.
Passed down.
But racism is just ignorance in general.
Of course.
It's you can, because because you could be taught racism and then you can change. I've seen it happen. People can change.
I have
so you could be racist and, you know, have it change. And it's not just white people that are racist of mixed kids. It's not. And people don't like to talk about it, but I will be the first one to talk about it. I've had also, you know, because I'm half black too. Like, I've also had like black people not like me and be like, oh, well, you're half white. Why did your daddy marry a white woman? Da, 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 like, get mad, or the white woman wants to take away the black man.
It's a lot of
it's
unspoken hatred towards complexion or complexionism within the black community.
Yes.
That it's swept under the rug a little bit because we try to keep that. A lot of colorism because at the end of the day we try to keep that in-house amongst each other. We don't want to say, hey, we're doing some of the most ignorant stuff as well as the stuff that we don't want against us, but we do it in-house.
We do it to ourselves.
Right to ourselves. And the most I can relate.
I feel like you can love whoever you want. I feel like it don't matter. Like, I know I see a lot of things even on TikTok today where, you know, some black people will be like, well, oh, white women just want to be with our black men. And it's not that. It's if you love somebody, you love somebody. It doesn't matter your complexion. Don't matter what you look like. I mean, that to me is just stupid. Like, yes, I get the whole bloodline thing, but at the end of the day, we're all one person. So does it really fucking matter?
Okay. I like that perspective.
Yeah. Oh, I always think that. I think we're one.
That.
We're one. It's not to me, I think we're all one race, which is the human race, and we just have skin colors. I don't believe in like the whole, this is one person, you can't talk to them because it's culture. It's not a race, it's a culture.
Well, how about this? Race is actually, in the term itself, created. But we think of it as an above thing, above us. Race is actually a man-made term.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like it's complete identification, but it's still down to the paperwork in which you subject yourself to more than what we think. It's not just you're a lighter complexion, I'm a darker complexion, but somebody else created race. You know, somebody who thinks they're bigger than us, who had a certain power at a certain point. And once you submit to yourself to that race on paperwork, you're kind of subjecting yourself to a lot of things as on applications, all sorts of documents.
Oh my gosh, the applications. You know? Oh my God, as a mixed kid, like I had no idea what to check. I always check other.
Some people would tell you take your father's race. Then you got, you know, there's even the thought of the 1% rule. If any part of you is black, you're deemed as black. Deemed as black. You know?
I always took my dad's race though. Like I always say, like when I was younger growing up, I always said I was white. I felt like I was more black than I was white. I felt like I was more accepted into the black community than I was accepted into the white community. And that's because of where I grew up.
Right.
But once I started branching out and like I lived in California for a little bit and starting really seeing how, you know, people actually are, I felt like I was just me, and race didn't matter. I didn't have to be black or white or Native American. I didn't have to pick a side. I could just be me.
Do you think any of that is due to where we've grown up in Virginia?
What, being me?
Yeah. As far as the perception and understanding when you say, I moved out to California.
Oh, yes.
That was the difference. Yes. A vast difference because of location.
It's definitely has to do with location. I always tell people Virginia was like one of the number one stops for slave trade. So we're brainwashed into the division already, and the energy. It goes so deep into the energy of Virginia. Slavery was very heavy here, so there's a lot of dark energy that is stuck in the grounds of Virginia.
For sure.
And I feel like that's why a lot of people are like so hateful and bitter, because it's generations of just broken trauma that people aren't healing, and it's generational traumas that people are not healing. But I'll be the first to tell you I'm a generational curse breaker. I ain't going for none of that. So
okay. all right. Tell me about your experience with dub life.
That shit was lit. It was a constant party. I'm not gonna lie. It was a constant party. Starting, it was crazy. When I first started music, the first week I had interviews, shows, like everything, just based off of like who they were, the connections they had. There was some bumps in the road and stuff, as every friend group has. We were more a friend group than anything. And I still talk to them to this day, and we still will hang out and stuff, but we're not as close as we once were, because I've moved to Atlanta and stuff like that.
Right.
And I was the only girl in dub life, so
okay.
it was pretty cool for the time being. I just felt like I didn't want to be a rage rapper anymore. I wanted to be a singer, and we all came to the agreement that I could branch off and do so much more as like a pop artist and getting help from people that specialize in pop and can get me to those doors than to stay in Virginia and do like rap and stuff. Because that's why they actually were the ones to really like push me into rap, because, and which was a great decision, because at the time, like in 2021, people weren't really getting respect for being a singer like they should have. A lot of people weren't respecting singers like they should have. It was all about the rappers. This is when like F Chop and G Sambo, like rappers, you know, rappers were a big deal. Even like female rappers like Mia Money, stuff like that. Like people were solidifying their rap career. So I feel like a lot of people were paying attention to a lot of rappers.
Okay.
So I could do it. Why not do it?
Okay.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
So, your favorite song out of all the ones you've done?
That's out?
In general, that you've recorded. How about that?
You know what? Just because I just dropped a single today, I'm going to have to say my single Better, because I have a music video out right now that dropped at 12 p.m. and my song dropped on all platforms at 12 a.m. And I think it's one of the best songs that I've put, not even one of, it is the best song that I've put out. And it's just because it came from my heart and soul. I have been through a lot this year. I felt like me elevating brought in a lot of positivity, but also a lot of negativity. I feel like the enemy was attacking me harder than ever before. So I started putting that into my music as like a release to, you know, be able to release it from me, and people relate to it. And I feel like people relate to artists that are vulnerable. I feel like a lot of like people that post on Instagram, they only post their highlights, so they'll think you're perfect, and I'm not perfect by any means. And so my Instagram may look perfect, but when you listen to my music, I'd be sad, like I'd be depressed. Like I suffer from depression, anxiety, like the next person. I have mental health issues that I have to struggle with as well. So even though I post pictures of being happy, sometimes when I'm posting the picture, I may not be, but I'm just posting for content, you know. So I feel like giving that to my supporters and letting them know that like they're not alone with the stuff that they have to deal with is very important to build a community.
Okay. All right, so which platform you feel like has been the best with creating motion within your career when it comes to social media?
With my music career, I would say Instagram. Okay. I do have more followers on TikTok. I have about like 34,000. But that was mostly for, and even to this day, that's not really like music. That's more like spirituality and conspiracy theories, things that I'm interested in. But Instagram is solely for my music and my pictures. And now I'm actually going to start getting back into modeling, so I'll start posting that on there as well. But I feel like the most engagement that I get with my music is on my Instagram, because that's what I'm constantly posting and stuff like that. I'll send it to people. I'll network, like I was networking my song all day, sending it to people I know is going to support me and stuff like that. So that's the platform I use.
What made you stop modeling? That's actually in my question. So it's funny that you've really kind of answered two questions that I had written down within, but that's funny.
I stopped modeling. I'm actually getting back into it. I'm going to the Virginia Swim Week audition or casting call, which is on Sunday. And Virginia Swim Week is going to be July 12th through the 14th. And this is going to be my first debut back on the runway since like 2019, 2020, when I did my last fashion week was New York Fashion Week. But I stopped because I felt like I couldn't be authentic to myself. I moved to California, got signed out in California and New York professionally. So like, thank you so much. I do this, like, this isn't just like a hobby. Like I was doing this very like professionally. And realistically, like, one, you don't really make as much money as people think you do. And for me, it has to make sense. And what makes sense to me is money. Money makes sense to me. And that's what you need to survive.
As it should.
So, yeah. So, you know, modeling was cool, but I couldn't be authentic to myself. I couldn't dye my hair, couldn't have nails. You had to have nude nails. You had to look very clean girl, cookie cutter. I looked like every other light skin with curly hair. Okay. And so whatever division you fell into was like,
the extreme version of that.
Yeah, like white girls with blonde hair look the same. Dark skinned girls with, 4C hair, they would all look the same. So it's like you had to look the same. And so you're competing against people that kind of look similar to you. And all of these booking agents, they're looking and like, y'all all look the same. So, all right, cool, I'm just going to pick one. So they don't see it as like individuality.
Right.
And that's when I was in the modeling industry.
Makes you feel kind of like
Boxed
you're
in.
the clothes being shopped for on the rack.
Yeah, like
and
you don't
it's the same
feel-
outfit, but it's just different sizes. But it's still pretty much the
Exactly.
same kind of. Oh wow.
And you don't feel like, to me, I didn't feel like a person modeling. I felt like a thing that you just pick.
Right,
And
a product.
literally a product, and that's what you are. And so I stopped to do music because I felt like that was my purpose in life, was to actually do music. I've been singing my entire life. So I was just scared to do it. And I felt like modeling was the safest thing for me. But once I started breaking out, I was like, nah, I can't do it. But now I'm going to come back in because the modeling industry is becoming way more inclusive than it was like 3 years ago.
Right.
So I feel like I can stand out a lot now with my hair. And then I got like...
Catch it while you can. While,
literally.
Right.
Literally. Before it goes back.
Yeah,
Because it always goes back.
Music was doing the same thing at one particular point, and people were not paying attention around.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think also with music, talent is coming back.
Hopefully.
No, I see it. In Atlanta and stuff, people want something new. Being in these meetings, like I've been in LA, like been in rooms with people that are like game shakers. And being in these meetings, like people are desperately seeking authenticity. They're seeking something different. They're tired of the same thing over and over again. When you sound like the same rapper, you got all of these like guys that sound like Lil Baby, you got like 20,000. Like after a while, it's like you got to find your own sound. And once you find your own sound that nobody can they have to either mimic you or it just can't be found in general.
Correct.
That's when you bring value to the table. You have to bring something to the table or you're just going to be a pawn in the game.
Okay, all right. So what inspired Moon?
Oh my God. Moon, I would say my domestic violent relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at a very low moment, and if you listen to it fully, which is not on any platforms right now, I actually have to put it back up. I had to take it down for some other reasons, but it will be back up. But it was pretty much just a finding myself, rebalancing myself, finding myself, getting my rage out, really showcasing, like, I guess it was like it was a pain song, but it was turned into like a rock style, I would say rage rock style song. But it was a pain song talking about my domestic violent relationship.
All right, I got one for left field from deep. How do you feel about the Palestine-Israel thing that's going on in the world?
Ooh. Oh, we gonna talk about that. Oh my gosh. All eyes on Rafa right now. I feel like I've been seeing some crazy things on the internet that nobody should be able to see. I'm gonna tear up talking about this. I do not think that we should be in a war at all.
Okay.
I do not think that innocent people should be killed for any circumstances. Children being killed, there's bodies laid out on the street. It's unnecessary. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. So the fact that we are seeing on social media people getting murdered and people are justifying it, I don't think it's to me, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not like against Israel or like Israeli people. I just think that what they're doing is wrong. It's wrong. And has nothing to do with what you believe in spiritually or, who you are as a culture. Mm-hmm. It has to do with what's right and wrong ethically and
right.
The human race, humanity. People have lost their humanity. And I feel like when you talk about it, and you're on the side of like we need to save Palestine, people will be like, well, you're anti-Semitic. No, it's not that. True. That's not true at all. It's the fact that innocent people are being murdered and people are walking around with little babies with their heads decapitated and stuff like that. Like I've seen that. Wow. And that's not something you should ever see on any type of platform. And it's the fact that it's still going on and people think that it's okay. It doesn't make sense to me. So to me, I think that we really are desperately in more of a battle of human rights and humanity than anything. Okay. And I do want to talk about how the women in Palestine don't even have feminine products right now. So they're getting infections because they don't have feminine products. And they're not getting feminine products. So when they're menstruating, they're getting infections because they're sitting in it and they have no way to wash it off or bathe or anything like that. So it's very sick. And I feel like people don't do their research on it. And it's very sad. And I definitely think it needs to fucking stop. So
For sure.
I stand on that.
Well, you just put me on game. I mean, I've been following it, but I hadn't done as much research. I don't know. I try to get a little lost in my world, because I felt like once I start looking at that, then I start diving deeper and deeper, and then I start feeling some sort of way, and I'll get sidetracked. I get sidetracked, and I'm like, bring it on in. Let's get back on the mission. So
I mean, it's not even. I haven't even done a lot of research. So there's a lot of things out there that I'm not even educated in, but I did want to try to at least educate myself on what was going on, and then. Once I got on that side of TikTok, I started seeing everything and kind of doing my own research on like, all right, well, what's really going on? Because why is this such a big deal? And it is a big deal.
Stealing of someone's land.
Literally. And that's all it is.
Israel was created. There were people there before it was created.
Exactly.
But,
And if I read correctly, aren't we as a country supporting that shit? I feel
we have an alliance to Israel.
That's
sadly.
That's what I'm okay.
So, yeah, it is America, and it's a lot of it. To me, I feel like is symbolism, and this is so far fetched. How I'm gonna throw this. A lot of it is true and false coming to light right in front of our faces in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. And if we want to take it to the minute scale of hip hop, and we're talking about the Drake and the Kendrick situation, there is true artistry versus the hit maker.
Facts.
The engine, the industry's engine, something that almost seemed that is predestined to happen without our hands being put. And then there is true artistry, which is kind of the Palestine and the Israel. There is something that was created and put in motion as a driven cycle. And then there was the true people of this, the starters.
They just want to be free. That's literally it. They're fighting for their freedom. And for us to sit here as not even a nation, as a globe, like the world, to just sit here and allow this to happen, and people aren't speaking out about it. People aren't.
2024. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And this is no comparison at all, but it's the same thing like with what we had in our own country with like the Black Lives Matter movement. I saw so many people not using their platform speaking out about all these social issues, and I get it. It's political. You don't want politics on your page, but at some point it's not political anymore, and it's human rights and it's humanity.
For sure.
And so are you with humanity or are you against it? And I know personally that a lot of people, especially from Gen Z, I'm Gen Z, are unfollowing and blocking a lot of celebrities due from the Met Gala. I don't know if you heard about that. It's called a blackout, 2024 blackout. After the Met Gala, and people saw that all of these celebrities were going to the Met Gala acting as if innocent people weren't being murdered, children weren't being murdered, nobody's speaking out about it, but you're going to tickets for the Met Gala cost $75,000, but you can't take that money and donate to help somebody in Palestine, so people are blocking them because at the end of the day,
that makes sense.
You don't use your platform for good, so why, we as a people, why are we giving you a platform if you're not using it to help us?
Hello, wake up, music industry.
Right. If you're not here to help people,
real, because music is that way too. Like we are empowering, making household names out of the same
craziest
type of people.
Stuff.
The same type of people.
That
Every
people
day
that don't care about you, and that's the thing. Like if you're gonna, I grew up listening to like Lauryn Hill, Nas, Outkast. Like I